living entity. So, those who are situated in the mode of goodness act piously according to Vedic injunctions. Those who are elevated to the higher planetary systems where the demigod, thus they are elevated to the higher planetary systems where the demigods live. Those who are influenced by the mode of passion engage in various types of productive activities in the planetary system where human beings live. Similarly, those who are influenced by the mode of darkness are subjected to various types of miseries and live in the animal kingdom. Srila Prabhupada's purport, His Divine Grace. There are 3 planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. Those influenced by the mode of goodness are given places in the upper planetary systems, Brahmalok, Satyalok, Tapalok, Janalok, and Maharlok. Those influenced by the mode of passion are given places in the Burlok and Buvarlok. Those influenced by the mode of ignorance are given places in Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, and the animal kingdom. Qualitatively, the living entities is the same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because of his forgetfulness, he gets different bodies in different planetary systems. At the present moment, human society is overly influenced by the mode of passion. And consequently, people are engaged in working in big factories. They forget how distressful it is to live in such places. In the Bhagavad Gita, such activities are described as ugra karma. That is, distressful activities. Those who utilize the energies of the worker are called capitalists, and those who actually perform the work are called laborers. In actuality, they are both capitalists, and the workers are in the mode of passion and ignorance. The result is that there is always a distressful situation. In contrast to these men are those influenced by the mode of goodness, karmis and jnanis. The karmis, under the direction of Vedic instructions, try to elevate themselves to higher planetary systems. The jnanis try to merge into the existence of Brahman, the impersonal feature of the Lord. In this way, all classes of living entities in various species of life are existing within this material world. This explains superior and inferior life forms within the material world. Hare Krishna. Good morning. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him again and again. So we continue this sacrifice, this offering to the Lord. We're chanting here to chant the glories of the Lord, to hear the words given to us by the Lord. Srimritam Sugata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidyantasto Vabadrani Vidanoti Savam. That the Supreme Lord, in the heart of every living entity, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages. Nasta Prayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtaki, by regularly hearing classes from the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, everything that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed. And loving service unto the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental song, loving service unto the Supreme Lord is established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. As an irrevocable fact. You become fixed up in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada used to use that term. So we request these several devotees, please offer a prayer to Lord Krishna to bless us, that whatever we have to say here is only what we've heard from Guru and Krishna. we exclusively only want to repeat what we've heard, without distortion, without any inappropriate motivation. We do this as an offering to the Lord. The sages at Namasharanya, they noticed the symptoms of the coming age of Kali, the dark age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Quarrel and hypocrisy. The age of the Iron Age, dark time. And out of compassion for all the members of society, for the benefit of society, they gathered together to perform the sacrifice of chanting and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. These very verses that we're reading in this room day after day were chanted and heard by those great sages. And they could understand that by this sacrifice it would counteract the effects of the age of Kali. It would help to protect, just by the fact that someone is willing to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. How wonderful is Krishna that he allows for that powerful and beneficial effect. And here there's a description of the different modes of material nature. It's important to remember that these modes of material nature, all three of them are binding. All of them are guna. They tie you up. They hold you back. They bewilder you. We are covered by the modes of material nature to various degrees. And Lord Krishna describes to Arjuna to rise above these modes of material nature, to do something on a higher platform than this kind of quality of consciousness, because all of them are basically useless. Without devotional service, it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the use of severe austerities? What is the use of acquired knowledge? What is the use of the ability to speak? What is the use of any kind of activity without devotional service? So therefore, in the second canto, in the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Dhammasvinasa tapum sam vishvaksena gatasya pariyutam shrama evi kevalam. These duties, these activities, these occupations are a useless labor if they do not provoke an attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. You've heard that? Never heard that? Whatever we're doing, even if it appears to be devotional service, if it does not provoke an attraction, hunger to hear the messages of Vasudeva, it's useless. But if we engage in devotional service under the direction of the spiritual master, if we engage in this sacrificial activity as an offering to the Lord, we will begin to experience an appetite, a taste, ruchi, a hunger. Oh, I need to hear the Bhagavatam. I need to hear these things. We need to hear them again and again. Sometimes people are attending the class and you see them, oh yes, I heard it before, right? I know all this, right? We need to hear it. And we're doing it as an offering to the Lord. Krishna is pleased that we're taking the time. Srila Vyasadeva took the time to write it down. Why not hear it? There's a really nice devotee, old man now, old, body's old, Kamsahanta, and he was telling me how he came to devotional service, how Krishna, how wonderful is Krishna, how Krishna was working in his life. We've shared this before, but I find it interesting myself to recall what he told me. He was working, like it says here, the people who are in the mode of passion engage in various types of productive activities in the planetary systems where the human beings live. So he was engaged in productive activity. He was working here in New York City. He's from a British-Canadian gentleman, but he was working here in New York City in the 1950s as a Madison Avenue executive, Madison Avenue is known for its media advertising activity. They do things. So he was making so much money. He had a yacht, a big boat, his own private little boat, and he had a plane. He had a own private plane. He had a Jaguar car, which is a very expensive vehicle, and he was making a lot of money. But he said, basically, most of the things that we were advertising in the early days of television, when you could do that on television, was alcohol and tobacco. So they were doing all these advertising, and he said, and it was so competitive, and we were so stressed out. Even at a young age, he had migraine headaches and ulcer, just from the pressure and the competition going on. And he was just driving himself crazy, even though he was making so much money. This is passionate activity. This is indicative of what it's like. You're doing a lot, you're gaining a lot of fruitive results, intense, high-level activity in one sense. But what is the result? You're selling people poison. Young people, inducing them to drink beer and smoke cigarettes, and basically just hurting people. And even if you're doing it very well, even if you're an expert butcher or an expert, beer salesman, what's the use, And he was thinking like that after a while. Krishna gave him that realization that this is ridiculous. I don't need all this money. I don't need all this hellish, hateful, cutthroat, dog-eat-dog, competitive atmosphere. And he just, as it came into the 1960s, he dropped out, we would say, dropped out. The philosophy in those days was turn on, tune in, drop out. You've heard that? Yeah. Right? So he began to use psychedelic drugs and marijuana. He became like a hippie person. For 10 or 15 years, he was basically intoxicated every day and just frittering away all the money he'd accumulated. And so he turned from the mode of passion to the mode of ignorance, just steeped in laziness, what does it say, lethargy, intoxication, and sleep. And he had his companions, and he was very enthusiastic about it, even thinking that he had improved his life. And then, you heard this before? No? And one day, I don't know if any of you have experienced what it's like to take LSD or mescaline, but it's an extremely intense experience. Even just going like this with your fingers, you're like, just going, the sensation of your fingers touching each other, and the sound of that is like, it's just so fascinating. Your senses are just, you just go into the sensual platform, and if you think of something like water, like anything you've ever heard or experienced about water, it's like somebody opened the file of water, just an ocean of memories and perceptions, and it's unbelievable. One time I was taking LSD with some friends of mine, and I went into the bathroom, and I think I was in there for like 4 or 5 hours. Whatever happened? I think I forgot there was anything outside of this. I was taking a bath, and I was just looking at all the things that there are. It was just like, you just get lost in sensuality. Ridiculous. Really, it's ridiculous. But it's enhanced. We're not recommending this. Thank you, Prabhu. So, he was tripping out on, he had taken 11 hits of pure LSD 25, which is a lot of intoxicating. And he was with some friends in the forest up in Canada, and he was near Lake Superior, one of the great lakes up there, and he said to his friends, "Let's go to the lake! Come to the lake! Let's go! We'll go swimming!" And he was running through the forest with just a pair of cut-off blue jeans on and no shirt, barefoot. And as he was running, he ran into a a big paper wasp's nest. You know what a wasp is? A big gray mud thing that was hanging there, and he smacked right into it. And all these wasps came out and started stinging on his face and his back and his legs and his arms and his belly. And he went screaming through the forest, tripping on LSD. Remember, everything's enhanced. And there were all these branches from pine trees. And he was screaming away. And he said, like hours and hours later, one of his friends, who also had been intoxicated on LSD, found him. And he said, I was laying there on the ground, and I all of a sudden opened my eyes, and my friend was looking down at me, and he was just going, wow, wow, wow. You know, because he was like bloody and, you know, just covered with welts from all these. And he said, it was such a powerful and horrible experience, so hellish, that I never took any intoxication again. He went into the mode of goodness, from the mode of compassion, ignorance. He became a vegetarian. He stayed away from all the cities. He didn't even smoke cigarettes or drink coffee. And he went into a very, 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 very sweet, gentle mode of activity that we call goodness. Here we go camping for months. He was living very, very simply. He was still living on Lakshmi that he had accumulated through his business activities years and years before, almost two decades before. And this one day, in the evening, he and his friend had been camping up in Canada, and they came down through Washington and Oregon into Northern California on the west coast on the Pacific Ocean. And they're on this beautiful beach in late summer, and the moon was over the Pacific Ocean, and it was a gentle breeze. There was no one else there, and they were making a little cup of tea on their little campfire. And it was sitting there saying, you know, this is the way to live, the goodness life, vegetarian, just a few possessions, no passionate activity, no intoxication. This is it. We're there, we're here, this is great. And then right then, just when they were patting themselves on the back about how perfect everything was, there was this tremendous crash. Tremendous crash. And there, like the beach is down, and then there's the mountains right there. And way, way up on the mountain, there's a road running along the Pacific Ocean. It's Interstate Highway number 1. And they didn't know what it was, and they climbed up the cliff, which is just about vertical. I said, well, it must have been an airplane crash or something. They climbed up, and as they got up, they saw that the highway goes along the ocean, and then there was a parking lot, like a place where you can stop the car and look over the ocean. And a car had skidded off the highway. Someone lost control of their vehicle, skidded through the parking lot and smashed into the guardrail. And it was a van, and it was hanging over the cliff, caught in the guardrail. And they said, oh, there must be people in there. We have to help them. And they climbed up. And as they came up on the side of the parking lot, there was one man who had been thrown free of the vehicle, and he was very nicely dressed in a 3-piece suit and a tie, but he had left his body. Just the body was laying there. And he said, I saw him laying there, and there was $20 bills and $5 bills blowing across the highway in the moonlight. He said, and I was thinking, you know, his money is not doing any good right now. He's dead, body. And then he went to the driver's side of the vehicle, and there was a woman there, and there was a CB radio, which is kind of like a walkie-talkie type thing that you can talk to the other drivers. You can call anybody on that frequency. Breaker 19 for local information. 19 is the frequency that all the truckers use to tell them there's a police car up there, whatever, when they're speeding. And so the CB radio was mounted to the ceiling, and it had come loose. This woman was the driver, and the CB radio had gone right into her neck and chest, like a howitzer shell. Just there was blood everywhere, coming out of her eyes and ears, and she was obviously had left her body too. It was really a horrific, bloody scene. And then spattered with blood, and in the passenger seat of the van was a young boy, and he was still alive, although he had a head injury. and the window was broken and open, and Kamsa Hunter went around to the window where this young man was basically dying. They couldn't get the door open, and he said the boy was looking at him, you know, and Kamsa Hunter was looking at the boy and trying to console him. Don't worry, we're going to help you. And he went running out into the highway, and he had this long frizzy hair sticking out like this, like a crazy hippie guy. And one car came in the middle of the night, and he didn't have his phone or anything. He tried to stop the car, and the car just took one look at him and just didn't stop. So he went back into the parking lot area and went back over to the van, and he went to the boy, and he was trying to console him. He said, "Don't worry, we're vegetarians. We don't go to the city anymore. You can come camping with us. You're gonna like it. We're gonna take care of you. You can come with us. I've got money, and it's a nice life." And he was trying to think of the best things he could think to offer to this boy who was dying. And as he was looking into this young boy's eyes, the boy left his body. And he said, "I realized I had nothing to give that boy. I thought I had everything together and figured out everything in the material world and what to do to be happy and peaceful and have a simple, life without disturbance." And he realized that the mode of goodness was something wrong with that. There was something missing. After that, he became a devotee. But these different modes are there, and people move from one mode to another mode to another mode, and they think they're making an improvement, and they're making an arrangement in the material world. But it's all basically, when death comes, you can't say to Yamash, "I'm a vegetarian." You're a vegetarian what? Even a horse is a vegetarian. There are other things. Without devotional service to Krishna, we're basically lost and bound up by the modes of material nature. So that's what Narada Muni is offering to Maharaj Prachanda Barsha. Check it out. There are varieties of confusion. There are varieties of traps. There are varieties of ways that you can be wasting your life. But they're all a waste of time, a useless labor, if they do not provoke attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So, in the beginning, we do this as a regulation. Come together, open the book, consider what Srila Vyasadeva has offered. Srila Prabhupada's, even though maintaining an intense schedule of traveling and preaching, he would get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and open up the books and translate and compose these purports that we're reading right now, to try to offer us access, to help give us, it says that we will get light from this Purana. Those who have lost their vision due to the densest darkness of the age of Kali will get light from this Purana. And we'll remember that human life is more than just eating and sleeping and having children. Prahlad Maharaj says, if you just eat, sleep, and have children, how are you different from an animal? Even the animals are doing these things. So, given this roadmap, the conclusion is to either give our life in devotional service or continue our life in devotional service, so we don't slip back again into the animal species. And some people are thinking that it would be good to be an animal. Some people are thinking, we have a kitchen on 5th Street, distributing Krishna Prasad to the homeless people in the street. And right next door, there's an animal shelter guy. You've seen that little, very nice man, Robert. And every day, he's giving homes. People come to adopt dogs and cats. And people are always stopping to look at the cats. Look at that cat, I saw a book the other day, Yoga for Cats. Right? Do cats need yoga? Move your cats cat is like, their body is practically liquid, They're just like, total chill. And, the animals, in one sense, even the down dog is one of the first yoga postures. what a dog does when he gets up. He goes like that. So for some people to come to the animal platform would be an improvement, and they can't imagine anything better. They just can't, I think, what could be nicer? Dogs are so simple, and they're fuzzy, and, they lick your face. Isn't that nice? Yeah. What? An animal life is an improvement over something that's lower than animal, but above that is a human being, and above that is a position of a devotee. So when we know the map, we won't get lost and be attracted to and endeavor to be a cat yogini or whatever. A good yogi might actually get to the platform by being like a cat. But lay around all day, and every once in a while you eat a mouse. Simple life. You have a question or comment?
I was just trying to remember, there's a story, right, of the Srila Prabhupada talking about this, and someone raised his hand saying, what's wrong with being a dog? Am I remembering
What's
that?
wrong with being a dog? Yeah.
Yeah, remembering that correctly? Did it happen?
I'm sure. We have that question all the time.
Yeah,
What's wrong with being a dog?
Yeah.
You can be a dog. We're not saying it's good or bad.
Your blessing should.
What is it, Vasudeva?
Your blessing should become dog.
Yeah, he said, you have my blessings.
Oh, wow.
You have my blessing.
I want to become a dog. You have my blessings.
Go. Be a dog. Because they don't even know. They can't qualitatively discriminate what could be better than just eating and sleeping and laying on the floor. The dogs are eating and sleeping. The humans are eating and sleeping. The dog doesn't have to go to work. He doesn't have to pay taxes. Doesn't have to pay rent in New York City. Doesn't have to worry about getting a job. Some people find that very attractive, because they're living lower than animal. Right? So, we are aware that there are choices. And we're always free to choose. They've never met a saint. They've never heard of a saint. They've never seen how a saint is uplifting others. And they're oblivious to the fact that death is coming. Dog life, there's death. What about that? We were in New Mexico one time, and I saw a pack of stray dogs. There's a lot of stray dogs. Like if you go to Asia or India, you'll find dogs that are in the street and they're dirty and no master. And this one dog was hit by a car, and his intestines were falling out. It was terrible. And the other dogs were coming and licking the bloody intestines because I guess they were hungry. And they were trying to eat his intestines while he was still alive, It's like, wow, so horrible to think like what it's like to be a dog. What about death? Dog's life means dog's death, right? And worse. So, we're talking about the possibility of actually being a loving being. The highest pleasure is the relationship between us and Krishna and each other. A life of eating and sleeping without love is very dry, empty. Pure love, Prabhupada said, in this world, this practically doesn't exist. Perhaps the care that the mother gives for the child is relatively pure, and if you extrapolate along that continuum to pure love, the way Jesus described it is a person who's willing to die for another. What greater love can a person have that you're really willing to care for another person's benefit and uplifting above your own. Srila Prabhupada was so remarkable about how he was sacrificing his life for Krishna's service and to help us, to reach out to us, to care for us, to teach us, to guide us, to help us to go back home. A place free from birth and death. Until death presents itself, life may seem to be a bowl of cherries. You know, how nice. I've got, maybe Lord Indra was in the body of a pig and he was thinking, I've got my nice piggy wife, I've got my nice piggy children, I've got my nice piggy stool to eat, I've got my nice mud to lay in. It could be better. He actually became so bewildered that when they said, okay, your term of incarceration, your term of being condemned to live like a pig is over, you can come back to be the king of the heavenly planets. He said, well, what about my mud hole? What about my wifey? What about my piggy kids? You know, he was thinking that he would be suffering in separation from that pig diet and pig bed. Can't even imagine something higher. That's what happens with the modes. We're covered, consciousness is covered, and our ability to understand that there's something better, we forget. Any other questions or comments? How wonderful is Krishna that he's calling us out, right? Reminding us. So devotional service is the means, and devotional service is the end. We're not trying to do this to get something else. This is the path the saints have trod. Mahajana Yeni Dasa Pranta. We're meant to follow in the footsteps of those great souls. We hear about these pure-hearted beings. We see the qualities of their character, their patience, their forgiveness, their generosity, and the depth of their satisfaction in a life of devotional service. Satisfied simply to serve Krishna, yeah.
I'm trying to phrase this. I was just thinking about your friend's story and how crazy that was, and like the different things that he had to go through in order to get to Krishna consciousness and like travel through the modes and stuff.
Krishna will give each of us what we need to go through. Hopefully we can hear from and learn from the mistakes of others so we don't have to go through that intense, horrible experience. But if not, Krishna will give us an experience.
Sometimes when I'm like walking around, you just see like people, like, especially here, like people who are like really deeply seated in the mode of ignorance. You know, like urban districts in New York. I just wonder, like to even break out of that into like the mode of even like to just even get out of that. The one speak of devotional service. You know, like how do you even approach these people?
This is the task before us. We become aware of the situation and what we're up against, and we try. That's why we chant, Lord, show us. Prabhupada was saying on the Jaladuta, Lord, unless you empower me, they'll never be able to understand your message when I speak it. There's that story, 5 seconds, got to be fast. David Gibbs went down to Alabama to visit his friend, and his friend's wife was a teacher. So when he got there, his friend said, "We have to go to this recital tonight. All the children in my wife's school are putting on a performance. Each class would go up on the stage and do something." And this one teacher had this very rural school, very simple school. They had one class with all the children who are uneducable. You can't teach them anything because they have some kind of challenging disability. And when she came on the stage, she played the piano, and the children had recited from memory these psalms from the Bible. And he could see that they actually believed and felt what they were chanting. And when he asked someone else, how did she do that with those children that don't seem to be able to be reached by ordinary teaching methods? And the other teacher said, well, that girl, she goes into the classroom 2 hours before school starts. And she kneels down at each desk one at a time. And she puts her hand on the desk and puts her other hand in there, and she kneels down and says, Lord, please show me how to touch this child's heart. This child, you put her in my care for today. I can't do it without you. Please, Lord, show me how to speak to her, how to reach her, how to encourage her, how to give faith in Scripture and the existence and the goodness of God, so that she will dedicate herself to your life. Then goes to the next desk and kneels down, prays and cries, Lord, please show me how to touch this child. Please help me. Go to the next desk, kneels down, pray every single day. Each of her students, just invoking the empowerment of the Lord and the help of the Lord. And he said, I saw it. Those children were, and then she reads to them from Scripture, because they don't have a big syllabus and she tells them, tell me what's going on in your life today. Tell me what happened yesterday with your parents. Tell me what's happening, how you feel and what you think, and, talking to them about forgiveness and devotional service and faith in God. So we can't do it without Krishna's help. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Krishna loves. How wonderful is Krishna?
How wonderful is Krishna?